In language arts, ClassQuest can really come to life with the minds and imagination of the students. As mentioned in the introductory video, ClassQuest is introduced to the students in the form of a story on the very first day of school and will continue until the very last day of school. The students and I will play the main characters in the story, and as the narrative progresses, we will travel to places all around the globe while learning about different cultures, different myths and legends, and different people. We will explore a variety of questions and situations in life, reflect on our thoughts and emotions, and deepen our relationships with other people and ourselves. Although ClassQuest was designed for a 4th grade classroom, the story itself is actually more on a 6th grade reading level. Because of this, we will go through the story as a read aloud, where I will be narrating the story throughout the entire year as the students follow and read along. The reason I chose to do it this way is because there is a great deal of research that supports read-alouds as one of the best ways for developing readers to improve, and is considered to be the foundation of literacy development. For example, researchers from the National Association for the Education of Young Children say that read-alouds are the single most important activity for reading success. The prestigious New Zealand author and educator, Margaret Mooney, says that read-alouds reveal the rewards of reading and develops the listener's interest in books and desire to be a reader. Bontis and Pinnell say that children can listen on a higher language level than they can read, so reading aloud makes complex ideas more accessible and exposes children to vocabulary and language patterns that are not part of everyday speech. So with this in mind, the students will be introduced to higher vocabulary and reading patterns while being engaged and imagining themselves and their fellow classmates going on the adventure themselves. And after reading the chapter, I will use Think Alouds to help connect their reading to their own life experiences, other books they've read, and other universal concepts. For additional practice, as we read through the story, each chapter has its own set of chapter questions, which were designed based on the questions from previously released STAR tests and state standards. This allows for consistent practice that simulates the level of questions and thinking expected on the actual STAR test. On top of that, the main story isn't the only thing the students will be reading for ClassQuest. There are other additional texts that support myths and legends in various cultures that are explored in the story. The students will have access to these books from our classroom library. Oftentimes, if what happens in the story piques their interest, students will want to learn and read more about it. And not only that, but students will have the chance to read other writings from their fellow classmates, but that will be discussed a little later in the video. So the story doesn't only affect student reading. Students will also be able to express their thoughts, ideas, and creativity with their classmates by writing their own chapters. Whether they're writing about something fun and imaginative or writing about something deep and reflective, students will play a role in creating their own experience as we go through the story of ClassQuest. Within the narrative, there are designated chapters that lead up to particular writing prompts, which is where the students will write their own chapter. Because it's done in this way, it opens up different kinds of writing opportunities for the students. Some chapters will be focused on creative writing, some are focused on details and descriptive writing, and there are even chapters focused on informing other characters. But the potential is unlimited. There are times in the story where a fictional character will be faced with a moral dilemma and will ask for the opinions of the students. For example, a character in the story might consider stealing to provide food for their family and will ask the students what they think they should do. Other times, students may have to work in pairs or groups to plan and think about a way they can overcome a challenge together before they write about it. Students will even write about themselves with other fictional characters in the story so they can create their own relationship with those characters. This is done so they can invest their own energy into the story to make it that much more meaningful for them. These are just a few of the examples that dictate what the students will write about in the student-written chapters. Aside from the main story, in the past, I've even had students create side stories, or what I called side quests, which were just fun stories that ran parallel to what was happening in the main narrative. Students would do this just for fun in their own time, sometimes by themselves, sometimes with their friends, but they did it out of their own volition, just because they enjoyed the story so much and loved being part of it. There was even a time when a student learned a valuable life lesson in class, and after asking him, with great excitement with his friends, translated it into a story that expressed the lesson he had learned. Other students even check, edit, and revise their work, creating a full-blown author experience before making their final copy. And what makes this experience even more meaningful is that I am able to take these stories and add it to our classroom library so that their friends and classmates can read it during independent reading time. My time teaching through this method was fairly limited, as I was only able to complete about a dozen chapters trying to write and teach throughout the school year, which is why I decided to take time off of teaching to write a story that truly expressed my own heart and soul. And now I have done just that. But in the time I did have teaching through this method, I found it to be incredibly effective and engaging. There were even times when students would come to my classroom so excited just because they wanted to see what would happen next in the story. And the crazy part is that where the story of Class Quest was back then is nothing to where it is now. So if you did enjoy this video and my teaching methods, please explore other parts of my site if you haven't already. There are links and examples of a few chapters and chapter questions, as well as student-written chapter outlines to give you a better idea of the resources mentioned in the video. Thank you so much for your time and for watching.